there, and welcome. Today, we are going to dive into something we do, about 20,000 times a day without even thinking about it breathing. But what if I told you that a lot of what we think we know about breathing the right way might actually be wrong? We're always told to take a deep breath, right? To calm down, to focus, to get healthier. It's just common knowledge. But based on the material for today's explainer, we have to ask a really tough question. Is that really the best advice? Well, the answer, coming from decades of solid research in respiratory physiology, is a big not necessarily. In fact, for a lot of us, our attempts to breathe better might actually be working against our body's own brilliant design. Okay, so let's dive right into the heart of this. Our first section is all about what I'm calling the deep breathing paradox. A lot of us have probably tried different breathing techniques. Deep breathing, belly breathing, maybe even methods like Buteyko. And the idea behind it is always the same. More air means more oxygen, and that has to be good for us. I mean, it just sounds logical, doesn't it? And this is where things get really weird. This is the central paradox. We think taking these huge deep breaths floods our brain and our body with oxygen. But the physiological reality? Over-breathing, which is just breathing too deep or too often, can actually starve our brain and tissues of that oxygen. So how is that even possible? Well, the answer all comes down to a molecule we've been taught to completely misunderstand. It's time to meet the real, unsung hero of our breathing story, carbon dioxide. You probably remember this from biology class, right? We learn a really simple story. We breathe in the good stuff, oxygen, and we breathe out the bad stuff, a waste product called CO2. But according to experts like Dr. Peter Litchfield, that view is, well, it's dangerously incomplete. So yeah, far from being just junk we exhale, CO2 is a super important signaling molecule. Get this, it's the main key your body uses for vasodilation, which is just a fancy way of saying the widening of your blood vessels. Without the right amount of CO2, those pathways for blood and oxygen literally tighten up. So here's how that whole chain reaction works, creating the exact opposite of what we want. First, you overbreathe. Maybe you don't even realize you're doing it. Second, you blow off way too much CO2. Third, without that CO2 signal, your blood vessels constrict. And finally, less blood flow means less oxygen actually gets delivered where it needs to go, no matter how much you have floating around in your lungs. And the fallout from this, man, it's huge. A state of low CO2, which is called hypocapnia, can cause this entire list of super common problems. Brain fog, feeling tired all the time, headaches, anxiety. I mean, just look at this list. How many of us feel these things and blame it on stress or our diet, and never once think it could be triggered by how we breathe? So that brings us to a really, really important question. If it's not about learning some new breathing technique, then what is it about? And this is where we move from the what of our physiology to the why of our psychology. The big idea from our source material is that dysfunctional breathing isn't just a random mistake we make. It's a learned habit. It's this unconscious, automatic pattern that often gets hardwired into our system as a response to stress or trauma, and then it gets switched on by specific triggers in our everyday lives. And this is so key. As Dr. Litchfield puts it, habits always serve a purpose. Think about that. These patterns, even if they're causing us all sorts of problems now, were originally learned because they helped us in some way. They were a solution to a problem at some point. I mean, think about it. Maybe overbreathing to the point where you feel a little dizzy served as a way to just check out from a really painful situation. Or maybe the physical feelings from overbreathing helped you spark a feeling of anger that made you feel in control. These things become really deep coping strategies. All right, so if these are unconscious habits, I mean, how in the world do you even start to figure them out and understand what's really going on under the hood? This is where we have to draw a really clear line in the sand. A breathing technique tells you how to breathe. It gives you rules, right? Breathe slower, breathe from your belly. But breathing behavior analysis, that asks why you breathe the way you do. It's not about forcing a new rule on yourself. It's about being a detective and finding the triggers for the patterns you already have. Right, because a habit isn't just one thing, it's a whole loop. It all starts with a motivation, that's the trigger. Then comes the behavior itself, something like cutting your exhale short because of a deep fear of not getting enough air. And finally, there's the outcome, that reinforcing feeling, like a split second of relief, that tells your brain, hey, let's run that program again next time. Now, I know this might sound a little complicated, but the way forward from here is actually incredibly empowering. It's all about shifting from being in a state of conflict with your body to one of cooperation. So, at the end of the day, the goal isn't to become some kind of breath control ninja, forcing it into a box with a bunch of strict rules. The real goal is to learn the language of your breath, to understand what it's trying to tell you, and to rebuild your trust in your body's own natural, self-regulating reflexes. I just love this quote from Dr. Litchfield. He says, "People need to learn to form a working partnership with their bodies. The body is a learning, living system. It's not a broken machine that we need to fix. It's a responsive partner that we just need to learn how to communicate with." What this all boils down to is a huge shift in how you see things. It's about moving from being a victim of your symptoms, your anxiety, your fatigue, whatever it is, to becoming the owner of your habits. Because let's be real, you can't change what you don't own. And that's where we'll wrap this up. But I want to leave you with this one last thought. If something as basic as breathing is actually a learned habit with these deep, hidden roots, well, what other unconscious habits in how you move or think or even eat might be shaping your health right now? Thanks so much for watching.